The stars looked different out here. Captain Una Park stood alone at the viewport of the diplomatic shuttle, her hands clasped behind her back. She had seen many things in her 42 years of life. She had walked on Mars. She had watched the sun rise over the rings of Saturn. But nothing had prepared her for this. The Accord station hung in the darkness of space like a ring made of light. It was enormous. Bigger than any city on Earth. Bigger than some moons. It turned slowly, catching the glow of 3 distant suns, and Una felt very small. Behind her, the rest of the delegation sat in the shuttle's main cabin. They were Earth's best, the finest minds and strongest warriors that humanity could offer. And today, they would be tested. Taiho Kim sat closest to the front. He was a big man with a soldier's build and a soldier's eyes. Cold, watchful, ready. He had commanded Special Forces operations on 4 continents. He had led the defense of Seoul during the last war. His file said he had killed 217 enemy combatants in his career. The real number was higher. Much higher. He sat perfectly still, but his fingers tapped against his knee in a rhythm only he understood. Beside him, Jizuhan reviewed documents on her tablet. She was the opposite of Taiho in almost every way. Slim where he was broad. Calm where he was tense. She wore an elegant suit and a gentle smile that never quite reached her eyes. Jisoo was Earth's greatest diplomat. She had ended 3 civil wars with nothing but words. She had once talked a nuclear-armed terrorist into surrendering by discussing poetry with him for 6 hours. Governments feared her more than they feared armies. In the row behind them, Do-Hun Lee stared at equations only he could see. He was a thin man with messy hair and glasses that he kept pushing up his nose. He looked harmless, almost fragile. But Do-Yun had created weapons that could crack planets like eggs. His work on quantum destabilization had been classified at the highest levels. Some said he was the most dangerous person on Earth. He never argued with them. Next to Do-Yun, Suji Cho chewed on a piece of gum and played a game on her phone. She looked bored. She always looked bored. But behind those lazy eyes was a mind that could break any system ever built. She had once brought an entire nation's power grid offline as a college prank. She had infiltrated military networks for fun. Earth's intelligence agencies had tried to arrest her 7 times. Now they paid her salary. These were humanity's champions. Their strongest. Their smartest. Their most dangerous. And then there was Yoonji Beek. She sat in the 3rd row near the window. A slim woman in her early 30s with a round face and kind eyes. She wore a simple dress and cardigan, and she held a worn tablet in her lap. Her file listed her as a cultural attach. A last-minute addition. Nobody quite knew why she was here. Yoonji was reading poetry. Yuna turned from the viewport and walked down the aisle. She stopped beside each team member, checking in, offering words of encouragement. When she reached Yoonji, she paused. "Are you ready?" Yuna asked. Yoonji looked up and smiled. It was a warm smile. Genuine. The kind of smile that made you feel like everything would be okay. "I am excited," Yoonji said simply. "I have never met aliens before. I wonder what they are like." Yuna nodded slowly. She did not know what to say to that. The others were preparing for the most important test in human history. Yoonji was excited to make new friends. "Stay close to the group," Yuna said finally, "and let us know if you need anything." "Thank you, Captain. You are very kind." Yuna walked back to the front of the shuttle. She could not shake the feeling that something about Yoonji was strange. Not wrong, exactly. Just different. The shuttle docked with the Accord station an hour later. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and the delegation stepped onto alien metal for the first time. The welcoming committee was waiting for them. There were 7 species in the Galactic Accord. 7 ancient civilizations that had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. Representatives of each species stood in a line, watching the humans with eyes of every color and shape. The Valkyrie were tall and thin, with skin like polished stone and eyes that glowed faintly blue. The Morthians were shorter, covered in soft gray fur, with 6 arms and gentle faces. The beings from the singing depths had no solid form at all. They existed as clouds of light and sound that shifted constantly. The other 4 species were equally strange, equally alien. At the center of the group stood Velox, the High Arbiter of the Accord. He was Valkyrie, ancient beyond measure, and he carried himself with the weight of centuries. His eyes moved slowly across the human delegation, studying each face. "Welcome to the Accord Station," Velox said. His voice was deep and mechanical, translated by devices embedded in the walls. "You have traveled far. We hope your journey was pleasant." "It was," Una said, stepping forward. "Thank you for receiving us." "We receive all who wish to be tested," Velox replied. "The assessment is the same for all species. 7 days. 7 tests. At the end, we will know if humanity is ready to join the galactic community." "We are ready," Una said firmly. Velox's eyes lingered on her for a moment. Then they moved past her, scanning the rest of the delegation. They paused briefly on Taiho, on Do-Yun, on Suji. Each time, there was a flicker of something in those ancient eyes. Concern, perhaps, or calculation. Then his gaze reached Yunji. She was standing at the back of the group, looking around the station with obvious wonder. Her eyes were wide. Her smile was bright. When she noticed Velox looking at her, she gave him a small wave. Velox blinked. It was such a human gesture, that wave. So simple, so harmless. He looked away quickly. "You will be shown to your quarters," he said. "The first test begins tomorrow. Rest well." As the delegation followed their guides into the station, Yunji fell into step beside a young Morthian who was carrying their luggage. He had soft gray fur and nervous eyes. "Hello," Yunji said. "What is your name?" The Morthian looked startled. "I am called Pip," he said. "I am just a worker. You do not need to speak to me." "But I want to," Yunji said. "Is this your home? The station? What is it like to live here?" Pip's nervous expression softened slightly. "It is large," he said. "Sometimes lonely. There are many people, but they are all very busy. Very important." "That sounds hard," Yunji said. "Everyone deserves someone to talk to." Pip looked at her with something like confusion. Then, slowly, he smiled. At the front of the group, Velox glanced back. He watched the strange human woman chatting with the luggage carrier. He watched Pip smile. Something cold moved through his ancient heart. He had seen many species come to be tested. Warriors, conquerors, geniuses. They were all dangerous in their own ways. But they were dangerous in ways he understood. Ways he could measure and counter. This one was different. He did not know why. Not yet. But he would be watching her. The first night on the Accord Station, Una called a meeting in their quarters. The rooms were large and comfortable, built to accommodate species of many sizes. The humans gathered in the central living area. "Tomorrow we begin," Una said. "We have trained for this. We are ready. But I need everyone focused, alert. The galaxy is watching." Taiho nodded grimly. Jisoo smiled her diplomatic smile. Do-Hyun was already lost in thought. Suji yawned. Yunji sat in the corner, writing in a small journal. "What are you doing?" Una asked. "Recording my impressions," Yunji said. "I met a Morthian today. His name is Pip. He is kind but sad. I think he misses his family." The room was silent. We are here to be tested, Taiho said flatly. Not to make friends. Yunji looked up at him. Her expression was not hurt. It was understanding. Of course, she said. But people are people, are they not? Even alien people. Nobody had an answer for that. That night, while the others slept, Yunji stood at the window of her small room. She looked out at the stars and the distant glow of unknown worlds. She thought about the aliens she would meet tomorrow. She wondered what made them happy, what made them sad, what they dreamed about when they closed their eyes. She smiled softly and went to bed. In his own quarters, Velox stared at the same stars. He thought about the quiet woman in the third row, the one who waved at ancient arbiters and befriended luggage carriers. He did not sleep well. The first test came with the artificial sunrise. Lights across the station shifted from the soft blue of night to the warm gold of morning. The human delegation was escorted to a massive chamber that looked like it had been carved from crystal. The walls were transparent, showing the endless black of space beyond. Velox stood at the center of the chamber, with representatives from the other 6 founding species. They formed a half-circle, watching the humans with unreadable expressions. The first test is strategy, Velox announced. His translated voice echoed through the crystal room. War is an unfortunate reality in our galaxy. We must know that your species can defend itself without destroying everything around it. A holographic battlefield appeared in the center of the room. Mountains, rivers, cities, armies of light. Taiho stepped forward. This was his moment. The simulation began. Enemy forces appeared. They were clever, controlled by an artificial intelligence that had studied 10,000 years of galactic warfare. The AI adapted. It learned. It had never been defeated. Taiho destroyed it in 4 hours. He did not use overwhelming force. He did not sacrifice his troops carelessly. He moved with precision, striking at weak points that the AI did not know it had. When the simulation ended, the alien observers were silent. One of the Morthians leaned toward Velox. He is like a predator, she whispered. Cold, patient, deadly. Velox nodded slowly. Noted in the records. While the observers focused on Taiho's victory, Yunji wandered to the edge of the room. She found a Velkari engineer adjusting one of the holographic projectors. He was old, his stone-like skin cracked with age, and he worked alone. That is beautiful technology, Yunji said softly. Did you build it? The engineer looked up, surprised that anyone would speak to him. I maintain it, he said. I did not build it. I am not important enough to build things. But maintaining is also important, Yunji said. If you did not do your job, none of this would work. The tests would fail. The engineer stared at her. No one had ever said that to him before. For 50 years, he had been invisible. Just another worker. Just another pair of hands. Thank you, he said quietly. Yunji smiled. What is your name? I am called Oren. Hello, Oren. I am a Yunji. It is nice to meet you. They talked for several minutes. Yunji asked about Oren's work, his life on the station, his hopes for the future. When the humans were called to leave, she waved goodbye. Oren watched her go. He felt strange, warm. It had been a long time since anyone had made him feel like he mattered. The second test was diplomacy. A simulation was created. 2 alien civilizations that had been at war for 1,000 years. Both sides hated each other. Both sides wanted victory, not peace. The test was to find a solution. Jisoo was given 6 hours. She solved it in 3. She did not use tricks or deception. She listened to both sides. She found the small truth buried beneath centuries of hate. The war had started over a misunderstanding, a translation error that had cost millions of lives. Once she revealed this truth, the simulated civilizations agreed to peace. The observers exchanged worried glances. "She is dangerous," one of the beings from the singing depths hummed. "She sees into the heart of conflicts. She could end wars. Or start them." "Noted," Velok said again. His voice was heavy. During a rest period, Yunji found the singing depths representative floating in a quiet garden. The being was a cloud of shifting colors, and it seemed sad. Its lights were dim. Yunji sat nearby on a stone bench. She did not speak. She did not try to start a conversation. She simply existed in the same space, peaceful and patient. After a long time, the being spoke. His voice was like music. "You do not fear me. Should I?" Yunji asked gently. "Others do. They find my form disturbing. They cannot understand something without solid shape." Yunji thought about this. "You are like music," she said finally. "Or like a feeling. Not everything needs to have edges." The being's lights flickered. Brighter, warmer. "That is a kind thing to say." "It is true," Yunji said simply. They sat together uncomfortable. Silence until Yunji was called away. The third test was knowledge. Do-hyun was presented with problems that had puzzled the Accords. Scientists for centuries. Equations that could not be solved. Theories that did not work. Mysteries of physics and mathematics that seemed impossible. He solved 7 of them in a single afternoon. When he finished, the observers did not speak. They stared at the solutions on the holographic displays. Some of them were trembling. "This one could destroy stars," a Morphean said quietly. "With enough resources, he could crack the fabric of reality itself." "Noted," Velok said. But his voice was no longer calm. It was a frayed dot between tests. Yunji found Pip again. The young Morphean was cleaning one of the observation decks, working alone. His 6 arms moved quickly, but his eyes were tired. "Hello, Pip," Yunji said. "How are you today?" Pip looked up. His face brightened immediately. "Miss Yunji, you remembered my name." "Of course I did." "You are my friend." Pip's eyes went wide. "Friend? But we have only spoken once." "Sometimes once is enough," Yunji said. "Will you tell me about your home? Your family? I would like to know." They sat together on the observation deck. Pip talked about his homeworld, a planet of rolling hills and warm rain. He talked about his siblings, 11 of them, and how much he missed them. He talked about feeling small and alone on the massive station. Yunji listened. She asked questions. She laughed at his jokes and offered comfort for his sorrows. When they parted, Pip had tears in his eyes. "No one has ever asked about my life before," he said. "The other species, they do not see workers like me. They look through us." "I see you, Pip," Yunji said. "You matter." She hugged him. Gently, carefully, mindful of his different body. Pip hugged back with all 6 arms. Across the observation deck, hidden in shadow, Velox watched. His ancient eyes narrowed. The 4th test was security. Suji was given access to a simulated version of the Accord's computer network. The most secure system in the known galaxy. 12,000 years of development. Layers upon layers of protection that she broke through in 47 minutes. She did not just break through. She took control. She rewrote security codes. She accessed files that were supposed to be unbreakable. She left little notes in the system, just to prove she had been there. When the test ended, she leaned back in her chair and yawned. "That was fun," she said. "Got anything harder?" The observers were pale. Even the ones without blood. "She could destroy our entire communication network," one of them said. "She could crash economies, erase histories, black out worlds." "Noted," Velok said. His voice was a whisper now. On the 5th day, Yunji met an elderly representative from a species called the Stone Singers. He was ancient, his body worn, his movements slow. He sat alone in a garden, staring at nothing. Yunji sat beside him. She did not speak at first. She just kept him company. After an hour, the old representative spoke. "I am dying," he said. "My species lives long, but not forever. I have perhaps a few cycles left." "I am sorry," Yunji said softly. "Do not be sorry. I have lived well, but I find myself lonely at the end." The young ones do not understand. They are too busy with their own lives. Yunji took his hand. Gently, her small human fingers wrapped around his rough stone ones. "Tell me about your life," she said. "I would like to hear." The old representative looked at her. His eyes were wet. "Why do you care?" "I am nothing to you. A stranger from a strange world." "Everyone's story matters," Yunji said. "And you are not nothing. You are someone who has lived and loved and seen wonders. That is never nothing." They talked for hours. The old representative shared memories he had not spoken of in centuries. Yunji listened to every word. When the day ended, the old one squeezed her hand. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for seeing me." Velox received reports from all across the station. The security chief, the diplomatic corps, the maintenance workers, the medical staff. Every report mentioned the same thing. The quiet human woman, the one who talked to everyone, the one who listened, the one who made people feel seen. "She is just a cultural attach," his aide said. "Harmless." Velox shook his head slowly. "No, the others are weapons. Obvious weapons. But this one," he stared out at the stars. "This one is something else entirely." On the sixth day, the human delegation gathered for a final review before the last test. They were confident, proud. They had passed everything. "We have done it," Taiho said. "They have seen what humanity can do. We have impressed them," Jisu agreed. "Perhaps even frightened them." Do nodded. Suji smirked. Yunji sat in the corner, writing in her journal. "What have you been doing all week?" Suji asked, not unkindly. Yunji looked up. "Meeting people. Listening to their stories. They have such interesting lives." The others exchanged glances. They did not understand, but somewhere deep in the station, Velox understood. And he was very, very afraid. Tomorrow would be the final test. And he already knew what the question would be. He just hoped the humans would choose wrong. The human delegation was woken before the artificial sunrise. Armed guards escorted them through corridors they had not seen before. These were not the bright, welcoming hallways of the visitor sections. These were older, darker. The walls here were made of black metal, and the lights flickered with ancient energy. Yuna walked at the front of the group. Her face was calm, but her heart was racing. Something was different today. Something was wrong. They emerged into an amphitheater. It was the largest space Yuna had ever seen. The ceiling rose so high that it disappeared into shadow. Tiered galleries climbed the walls like the seats of a stadium, and every seat was filled. Thousands of alien beings watched from above. Representatives of every species in the Accord. Every world. Every civilization. They had come to witness the final test. At the center of the amphitheater was a circular stage. Velox stood there, tall and ancient, his glowing blue eyes fixed on the approaching humans. Beside him stood representatives from each of the 7 founding species. Their expressions were unreadable. The human delegation was led to the center of the stage. Guards formed a circle around them. There was no way out. Silence fell across the amphitheater. Not a whisper, not a breath. The galaxy was watching. Velox stepped forward. His translated voice rolled through the massive space like thunder. Humanity. You have come far. You have passed 6 tests. You have demonstrated your strength, your intelligence, your cunning. You have shown us what you are capable of. He paused. The silence stretched. But capability is not enough. Many species have been capable. Many have risen to power. Many have burned. Many have been removed. Una felt cold. The word hung in the air. Removed. It was not a word for exile. It was a word for something far worse. Velox continued. The Galactic Accord has endured for 12,000 years. We have maintained peace among 100,000 worlds. We have prevented wars that would have killed trillions. We have done this because we understand one simple truth. His eyes swept across the human delegation. Every species is dangerous. Every civilization carries within it the seeds of destruction. The question is not whether you are dangerous. The question is whether you know what kind of danger you are. He raised one long, stone-like arm. The final test is this. Identify the danger. Holographic projections flickered to life around the stage. Images of each member of the human delegation appeared in the air. Their faces, their files, their accomplishments. Taiho's profile showed his military record, his kill count, his tactical victories. Words appeared beside his image. Strategic threat, combat specialist, capable of devastating, asymmetric warfare. Jisoo's profile showed her diplomatic achievements, the wars she had ended, the alliances she had forged. Words appeared. Ideological threat, master manipulator, capable of destabilizing political systems. Dahyun's profile showed his research, the weapons he had designed, the theories he had developed. Words appeared. Technological threat, weapons genius, capable of planetary destruction. Suji's profile showed her hacking record, the systems she had broken, the secrets she had stolen. Words appeared. Information threat, cyber specialist, capable of collapsing digital infrastructure. And Yoonji's profile showed almost nothing. A simple photograph, a job title, cultural attach, no threat assessment, no warning labels, just a quiet woman with kind eyes. Velox turned to face the humans directly. Among your delegation is an individual who poses the greatest threat to galactic stability. You have 1 hour to discuss among yourselves and identify this individual. When the hour ends, you will present your answer and your reasoning. He paused. The weight of his next words seemed to press down on the entire chamber. Choose correctly, and humanity will be admitted to the Galactic Accord. You will have access to technologies beyond your imagination. Trade routes spanning 1,000,000 stars. Protection from threats you do not yet know exist. You will become part of something greater than yourselves. His voice dropped lower, colder. Choosing correctly, and your species will be reconsidered. The assessment will end. You will be returned to your world, and the Accord will watch you very, very, very carefully. He did not say what would happen if the Accord watched and did not like what it saw. He did not need to. You have 1 hour. Beginning now. Guards led the human delegation to a smaller chamber off the main amphitheater. The door closed behind them with a heavy sound. They were alone. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Taiho laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound. They want us to pick the most dangerous one? That is easy. It is me. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed. His eyes were hard. I am a soldier. I have killed more people than I can count. I know how to break armies, destroy cities, win wars. They are afraid of military power. That is what this is about. No, Jisoo said. She was pacing slowly, her diplomatic mind working. They have soldiers of their own. They have weapons that can destroy planets. Military strength is something they understand, something they can counter. She stopped pacing and looked at the others. They fear what they cannot control: ideas, influence, the ability to change minds. That is why it must be me. A diplomat can do more damage with words than a soldier can do with weapons. You are both wrong, Do-yoon said quietly. He was sitting in a corner, staring at his hands. Weapons and words are tools, limited, temporary. But knowledge? Technology? That lasts forever. Once you discover something, you cannot undiscover it. He looked up. His eyes were sad. I have created things that should never exist. Theories that could unmake reality itself. If any of us is truly dangerous, it is me. Please, Suji said. She was lounging in a chair, feet up, seemingly relaxed. You are all thinking too small. In this age, information is everything. I can break any system, steal any secret. I could crash their entire Accord network in a day if I wanted to. That is real power. That is real danger. The four of them argued back and forth. Each was convinced of their own dangerous importance. Each believed they were the correct answer. Yuna listened in silence. She stood apart from the group, watching, thinking. Something was wrong. The aliens had watched them for a week. They had seen every test. They knew exactly what Taiho could do, what Jisoo could do, what Do-yoon and Suji could do. All of that information was right there in the holographic profiles. If the answer was that obvious, they would not need to ask. Her eyes drifted to the corner of the room. Yoonji sat alone, away from the argument. She had her worn tablet in her lap, and she was reading poetry again. Her face was calm, peaceful. She seemed completely untroubled by the situation. Yoonji, Yuna said. The argument stopped. Everyone turned to look. What do you think? Yoonji looked up from her tablet. Her expression was gentle, understanding. I think you should answer honestly, she said. Tell them what you believe. But what do you believe? Yoonji was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled softly. I believe that everyone is dangerous in their own way, and everyone is good in their own way. The question is not who is the most dangerous. The question is what the Accord is really afraid of. The others exchanged confused glances. That does not answer anything, Taiho said. Perhaps not, Inji agreed. But perhaps the answer is not as simple as choosing a name. The hour passed quickly. Too quickly. When the doors opened again, the human delegation was led back to the central stage. The thousands of alien observers watched from their tiered seats. The weight of their attention was almost physical. Velox stood waiting. Have you reached a decision? Yuna stepped forward. She had listened to the arguments. She had considered the options. In the end, she had to choose. We have discussed it at length, she said. We believe that the individual who poses the greatest threat to galactic stability is Do-hyun Lee. His technological capabilities exceed those of any other member of our delegation. His weapons research could destabilize entire star systems. He represents the most significant danger. Do-hyun lowered his head. He did not argue. Part of him had always known this was true. Velox listened in silence. His ancient eyes moved from Yuna to Do-yoon to the rest of the delegation. Then he made a sound that might have been a sigh. It was heavy, tired, almost sad. You have chosen incorrectly. The words echoed through the amphitheater. The alien observers stirred. Murmurs rippled through the galleries. Yuna felt her heart sink. Incorrectly? Then who? Velox raised his hand for silence. You will understand soon enough. But first, let me show you something. New holographic images appeared in the air. Not profiles this time. Surveillance footage. And all of it centered on Yoonji. The holographic images hung in the air like ghosts. Every eye in the amphitheater was fixed on them. The human delegation, the alien observers, the ancient representatives of the founding species. All of them watched the footage play out in glowing light. The first image showed Yunji on the observation deck with Pip, the young Morthian worker. They were sitting together talking. Pip was crying. Yunji was holding his hand. The second image showed Yunji in the garden with the Singing Depths representative. The being of light and sound was dim at first, sad and isolated. Then, as Yunji sat in comfortable silence, its colors began to brighten. To glow. The third image showed Yunji with Oren, the old Valkyrie engineer. He was explaining his work, pointing at the holographic projectors. His cracked face was lit up with pride. The fourth image showed Yunji with the dying stone singer. They were holding hands. The ancient being was weeping, sharing memories he had kept hidden for centuries. More images appeared. Yunji talking with a cleaning crew. Yunji sharing a meal with a group of translators. Yunji asking questions of a nervous young diplomat from a species that looked like floating crystals. In every image, she was listening, caring, connecting. And in every image, the aliens she spoke with were transformed. Their fear faded. Their loneliness lifted. They smiled. They opened up. They trusted. Velox let the images play for a long time. When they finally faded, he turned to face the human delegation. Do you understand now? Yuna's mouth was dry. I do not. Then let me explain. Velox walked slowly across the stage. His ancient body moved with the weight of centuries. When he spoke, his voice was quieter than before, almost gentle. Your warriors, your scientists, your diplomats, your hackers, they are dangerous, yes. Dangerous in ways we understand, ways we have seen before, ways we can prepare for. He stopped in front of Yunji. She looked up at him with her usual calm expression. But this one, he said, this one is something else entirely. The amphitheater was silent. Not a sound, not a breath. In 7 days, Velox continued. She has formed genuine emotional connections with representatives of 11 different species, workers, diplomats, engineers, elders. She did not try to manipulate them. She did not seek information or advantage. She simply cared. She listened to their stories. She asked about their lives. She made them feel seen. He turned to face the gathered observers. Do you understand what that means? In 12,000 years, no species has ever unified the accord. We are too different, too alien to one another. Our minds work in different ways. Our hearts beat to different rhythms. We maintain peace not through friendship, but through mutual suspicion, through carefully balanced power, through the knowledge that any species that grows too strong will be opposed by all the others. His voice grew heavier. But humans do not play by those rules. They do not conquer only with weapons or ideas. They conquer with something far more dangerous. He looked directly at Yunji. Empathy, connection, love. The word echoed through the chamber. Love, such a small word. Such a human word. Taiho stepped forward. His face was confused, angry. That is absurd, he said. You are saying she is more dangerous than me? Than Doyen? She has no weapons, no power. She just talks to people. She just talks to people? Yes, Velox said. She talks to people. And after she talks to them, they are no longer just Morthian or Valkyrie or human. They are her friends, her connections, her network. He pointed at the holographic images that still lingered in the air. Look at them. Pip, Oren, the Singing Depths representative, the Stone Singer elder. All of them are changed. All of them will remember her. Think of her. Speak well of her. And when they meet other humans in the future, they will remember that a human once cared about them, once saw them as people, once loved them. He lowered his arm. That is how it starts. One person at a time. One connection at a time. Give humanity 100 years, and there will be humans who are trusted friends in every corner of the galaxy. Give humanity 1,000 years, and you will not be able to find a world that does not have a human connection, a human friend, a human love. The observers in the galleries were stirring now, whispering among themselves. Some looked afraid. Others looked thoughtful. Velox raised his voice. Humanity will not need to conquer us with armies. They will not need to break us with weapons. They will simply become part of us. They will be our advisors, our friends, our partners. And by the time anyone realizes what has happened, it will be too late. Humanity will be the heart of the galaxy, and no one will remember that it was ever any other way. Silence fell again. Then Yunji spoke. Her voice was soft, gentle. It should have been lost in the vast chamber. But somehow it carried clearly to every ear. Is that really so terrible? Velox turned to her. His ancient eyes met her kind ones. What do you mean? Yunji stood. She walked toward him, her steps quiet on the stone floor. She stopped a few feet away and looked up at his towering form. You speak of empathy and connection like they are weapons, like they are tricks, but they are not. She gestured at the floating images, at Pip, at Aaron, at all the others. These are not conquests. These are friendships, real friendships. Pip is lonely. Oren feels invisible. The singing depths being fears that others find her disturbing. The stone singer is dying alone. I did not plan to help them. I simply saw people who were hurting and wanted to make them feel less alone. Her voice was still gentle, but there was a strength in it now. You have been alone for 12,000 years. All of you, watching each other with suspicion, building walls instead of bridges, maintaining peace through fear instead of trust. Is that really better than what I am offering? Velox was silent. Yunji continued. I did not come here to conquer anyone. I do not want to rule the galaxy. I just believe that people are people, no matter how different they look. I believe that everyone deserves to be seen, to be heard, to be loved. She smiled softly. Maybe that is dangerous. Maybe it will change things. But is change always bad? Is connection always a threat? The amphitheater was utterly still. One of the Morthian representatives leaned forward in her seat. She speaks truth, she said slowly. My nephew works on this station. He told me about her, about how she talked to him like he mattered. He has never felt that way before, not from any other species. A Valkyrie diplomat spoke up. Oren requested a meeting with me yesterday. He asked if I knew about Earth's poetry traditions. He said a human showed him that small things can be important. More voices joined in. From every corner of the amphitheater, representatives shared stories. Encounters with Yunji, moments of unexpected kindness, small connections that had left lasting impressions. Velox listened to all of it. His ancient face was unreadable. Finally, he raised his hand for silence. I have lived for 3,000 years, he said quietly. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched species destroy each other over nothing. I have maintained peace through cold calculation and careful balance. He looked at Yunji. But I have never seen anything like you. Yunji said nothing. She just waited. You are dangerous, Velox said. More dangerous than any weapon or strategy or technology. You are dangerous because you make people want to change, want to open up, want to trust. He paused. But perhaps that is not a bad thing. He turned to face the full assembly. The council will vote. The question is simple. Should humanity be admitted to the Galactic Accord? The voting was done by light. Each species had a color. Blue for yes, red for no. The representatives cast their votes, and colored lights flickered through the galleries like fireflies. Yuna watched with her heart in her throat. She could not tell which color was winning. There were too many lights, too many species, too many votes. Finally, the counting ended. Velox announced the result. Humanity is admitted to the Galactic Accord. The chamber erupted. Some cheered. Some protested. But the majority had spoken. Yuna felt tears in her eyes. They had done it. After everything, they had done it. But as the celebration began, she noticed something. Velox was not celebrating. He was watching Yunji with a strange expression on his ancient face. Not fear. Not exactly. Something closer to wonder. Diplomats from 100 worlds came to congratulate the human delegation. Drinks were poured. Speeches were made. The amphitheater transformed from a place of judgment to a place of welcome. Yuna moved through the crowd in a daze. Everything had changed so quickly. One moment, they were facing possible destruction. The next, they were members of the most powerful alliance in the galaxy. She found herself standing at the edge of the gathering, watching her team. Taiho was surrounded by military officials from several species. They were asking about his tactics, his training methods, his philosophy of war. He answered with short, precise words, uncomfortable with the attention. Jisoo was deep in conversation with a group of diplomats. She was already building relationships, already planning for the future. Her smile was genuine now, not the careful mask she usually wore. Do-hyun was being questioned by scientists. They wanted to know about his theories, his discoveries, his ideas for the future. He answered shyly, surprised that anyone cared about his work beyond its capacity for destruction. Suji was showing off. She had convinced a group of young aliens to let her demonstrate her skills on their personal devices. She was teaching them tricks, making them laugh, being herself. And Yunji was nowhere to be seen. Yuna searched the crowd. She walked through the galleries. She checked the gardens, the observation decks, the quiet corners where people went to think. She found Yunji on a small balcony overlooking the stars. The quiet woman was not alone. Pip was there, sitting beside her. So was Auron. So was the singing depths being floating like a gentle cloud of light. So were a dozen others. Workers, diplomats, elders, strangers who had become friends over the course of 7 days. They were talking, laughing, sharing stories. The kind of gathering that happened naturally when people felt comfortable with each other. The kind of gathering that should have been impossible among species that had never truly understood each other before. Yuna watched from the doorway. She did not interrupt. After a while, the gathering began to break up. People said goodbye, hugged, made promises to stay in touch. One by one, they drifted away until only Yunji remained. Yuna stepped onto the balcony. "How did you do it?" Yunji looked up. Her expression was soft, peaceful. "Do what?" "All of this." Yuna gestured at the space where the gathering had been. "We came here with soldiers and scientists and geniuses. And in the end, the most important member of our delegation was someone who reads poetry and makes friends with luggage carriers." Yunji smiled. It was a small, quiet smile. "I did not do anything special. I just talked to people, listened to them, cared about them. But why? You did not know any of them. They were aliens, strangers. Why did you care?" Yunji was silent for a moment. She looked out at the stars. "When I was young," she said, "I was very lonely. I did not fit in with the other children. They thought I was strange, quiet, boring. I spent most of my time alone. She paused. Then one day, an old woman at my school noticed me. She was the cleaning lady. Nobody paid attention to her, but she saw me sitting alone, and she came to talk to me. She asked about my life, my hopes, my fears. She listened like I was the most important person in the world. Her voice grew softer. She changed my life, not by doing anything big, just by seeing me, by caring, by making me feel like I mattered. She turned to look at Yuna. Everyone deserves that. Everyone deserves to be seen. It does not matter if they are human or alien or rich or poor. Everyone has a story. Everyone has pain. Everyone has dreams. And when you take the time to listen, sometimes that is enough. Yuna did not know what to say. Footsteps sounded behind them. Velox walked onto the balcony, his ancient form moving slowly. "May I join you?" Yunji smiled. "Of course." The three of them stood together, looking out at the infinite darkness and the countless points of light. "I have been thinking," Velox said slowly, "about what you said in the amphitheater. About change not always being bad. About connection not always being a threat." He paused. "I have been maintaining the accord for 800 years. Before that, I watched others maintain it for centuries more. In all that time, I have never questioned the fundamental truth that we operate under. That trust is weakness. That openness is danger. That peace can only be preserved through careful balance and mutual fear." He turned to look at Yunji. "But in 7 days, you have made me question everything." Yunji said nothing. She just waited. "I watched the surveillance footage," Velox continued. "Not just the moments I showed in the amphitheater. All of it, every conversation, every interaction. And I kept looking for the trick, the manipulation, the hidden agenda. But there was nothing." His voice grew quieter. "You simply cared. That is all you did. And somehow, that was enough to change everything." He was silent for a moment. "I am 3,000 years old. I thought I understood the galaxy. Thought I understood people. But I am beginning to realize that I understand very little." Yunji reached out and took his hand. It was a human gesture. A gesture of comfort and connection. Velox looked down at her small fingers wrapped around his ancient stone ones. "That is okay," Yunji said gently. "None of us really understand everything. We just do our best. We try to be kind. We try to see others. That is all any of us can do." Velox was silent for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was strange, different. "Would you teach me to see others as you do?" Yunji smiled. "I would like that very much." The shuttle departed the next morning. The human delegation stood together at the viewport, watching the Accord station shrink into the distance. They were heroes now. The first humans to join the galactic community. Their names would be remembered forever. Taiho approached Yunji as she watched the stars. "I have been thinking," he said. His voice was gruff, uncomfortable. "About what Velox said. About you being the most dangerous one." He paused. "I did not understand it at first. I am a soldier. I measured danger in kill counts and tactical advantages. But that was wrong, was it not?" Yunji looked at him with gentle eyes. "You are not wrong, Taiho. You protect people in your own way. Your strength is needed. Your skills are valued. We need soldiers just as we need diplomats and scientists and hackers. And what do we need people like you for?" Yunji thought about this. "To remind us why we are protecting things in the first place. To keep us human. To make sure that when we finally reach the stars, we bring the best of ourselves with us." Taiho nodded slowly. He did not fully understand. Perhaps he never would. But he was beginning to see something he had not seen before. "Would you like to get dinner sometime?" he asked awkwardly. "When we get back to Earth." "I would. I would like to hear about your life. If you would like to tell me. Yoonji smiled warmly. I would like that very much. Behind them, the other members of the delegation were talking among themselves. They had changed too, in small ways. The week on the station had shifted something in all of them. Jisoo had promised to visit Pip's homeworld. Dohyun had exchanged contact information with the Accord scientists. Suji had become unofficial tech mentor to a group of young aliens who now wanted to study cybersecurity. And Yuna stood apart, watching her team. Watching Yoonji. She understood now. The real test had never been about weapons or intelligence or power. It had been about something much simpler, much deeper. It had been about heart. Humanity had passed not because they were the strongest or the smartest. They had passed because somewhere among their champions and their geniuses, they had brought a quiet woman who believed that everyone deserved to be loved. And that, in the end, was the most human thing of all. On the Accord station, Vlok stood at the same viewport where he had watched the humans arrive a week ago. The shuttle was gone now, lost in the vast darkness between stars. He should have been worried. Humanity was everything he had feared. A species that could unite the galaxy not through force, but through love. A danger he could not fight. A threat he could not counter. But as he watched the stars, he found that he was not worried at all. He was looking forward to seeing Yoonji again. And somehow, that feeling, that strange, warm, unfamiliar feeling, did not seem like weakness at all. It felt like the beginning of something new.